Good morning, everyone. Welcome to the Saturday Morning Mastermind. My name is Catherine Clement, and I am from Boulder, Colorado, but I'm currently in Nashville, Tennessee, helping a friend. And Samantha normally is the host for this, but she just had a new grandbaby yesterday. Congratulations. Whoop, whoop. So little Bailey is absolutely perfect, and we're just happy and letting her go enjoy good times with that new baby. And so we're going to wing it here. We're on verse 39 of Dr. Wayne Dwyer's Change Your Life, Change Your Life, Change Your Thoughts, Change Your Life by Dr. Wayne Dwyer. And we're reading one verse at a time. This week we read verse 39, and we're going to discuss that and see what we all thought about that. And hopefully we'll have some more people join us here shortly, but I'll mute out and let everyone come out and introduce themselves.
Hi, I'm Karen Lohoff, and I'm excited to be here and want to congratulate the new baby and family and Samantha and everyone that's not with us. We sure miss you, and I do want to let anyone who might be seeing this later to join us. I want to invite you to join us because it's really a lot of fun to have an opportunity to spend an hour with people just as real as can be, and we'll just kind of go over some of the wisdom that we're picking up on, and we'd love to have you join us.
Thanks, Karen. Yeah, we invite anybody who sees our link to come and join us on our Saturday morning masterminds. We're doing Dr. Wayne Dyer's Tao Te Ching. Let's see. I forget the subtitle. That's all right though. Let's see. I'll read the verse if you want.
Awesome. Sure. Thank you.
All right. Tao Te Ching, verse 39. These things from ancient times arise from one. The sky is whole and clear. The earth is whole and firm. The spirit is whole and full. The 10,000 things are whole, and the country is upright. All these things are in the virtue of wholeness. When man interferes with the Tao, the sky becomes filthy, the earth becomes depleted, the equilibrium crumbles, and creatures become extinct. Therefore, nobility is rooted in humility. Loftiness is based on loneliness. That's why noble people prefer to refer to themselves as alone, lacking, and unworthy. These pieces of a chariot are useless unless they work in accordance with the whole. A man's life brings nothing unless he lives in accordance with the whole universe. Playing one's part in accordance with the universe is true humility. Truly, too much honor means no honor. It is not wise to shine like jade and resound like chimes. And there's a short sentence here from another Tao Te Ching I have. It's just one sentence. And for the 39th verse, it's halting, and in parentheses, trouble. When halted, the southwest is beneficial, not the northeast. It is profitable to see a great person. Innocence is auspicious. A little different.
Nice. Awesome. Thank you, Chris.
Thanks.
Glad you could join us. You want to come out and introduce yourself?
Hey, good morning. Can you hear me okay? My name is Jason Roberts. I'm here in Tampa, Florida, and it's great to be here. Last week I couldn't get on, my mic wasn't working, so I'm really excited that my mic is able to work this time. I actually been having issues all morning with technology, but we keep working at it and we get it together. So yeah, it's really good to be here and good to see you, Chris and Karen. Nice to see you too, Catherine.
Awesome. We're so glad you got your mic working.
Yeah.
That had to be frustrating. What did you figure it out finally?
Yeah, I had to go out of the system. I really didn't figure out what the issue was, other than completely rebooting everything, and then going back into Zoom. And I did a webinar by myself just to check the audio, and it seemed to work. But it was weird that day. It seemed to work as well, but then it just wasn't working on my computer. So I don't know what the issue was, but it might have just been Zoom.
Yeah, it might have been. Well, we're glad that you're with us this week. And Samantha just had the new grandbaby, so she's not here with us. And Sandy just moved, and she doesn't have internet yet. I think Christina's still having some construction going on in her house, and I'm not sure if Donna and Dan are working today or not. So it might be us. But I'm so grateful you guys are here, because I was thinking, oh boy, I'm not going to talk about this all by myself.
Oh, well, I'm sure you could. You got a lot of stuff to tell us. But, yeah, well, we is just reading the verse. Is that?
Yep. Chris just read the verse, and so now it's open for discussion. Who'd ever like to give their thoughts on this verse? It's verse 39, and it's in the one chat if you need it there too. Or not the one chat, the Saturday Morning Mastermind chat. Sorry, my brain isn't working. It's not fully engaged yet.
That's okay. Yeah, I don't know. I have to admit, I didn't get a chance to read through it. So I really don't have, any basis for where to, for to comment, but right now. But as I've been reading the verses, though, it seems like a lot of this stuff just is, like last week's and the week prior. It seems like this is a great the way of the Tao and is nice, and it'd be great if everybody lived by that. But with when so many people aren't living that way or don't understand that, it really makes it difficult to follow any of these types of suggestions in these verses. Because that's just not the way our world is. It's not the way the world functions, and you can't depend on other people to be acting in accordance to the Tao. So it's a lot. Some of it's hard to swallow and hard to understand. So, but I'd be interested in hearing what you guys' take is on it, and while you do that, I'll kind of skim through it and see if there's anything that pops out at me.
Awesome. Well, I think that's why all great spiritual texts speak to, I'm going to actually put us on gallery since there's just 4 of us. There we go. I think that's why each great spiritual text refers to, regardless of what is going on in the outer world, we must keep the peace within us. We have to be able to look beyond how those things appear. Like right now, it appears that the world is kind of going to hell in a handbag, with systems collapsing and stuff. But in actuality, it is just the corruption that is crumbling, and we're moving into a place, a world where there's more integrity, where people like moving into blockchain technology, where people are not going to be able to change the books in the back room to steal from us anymore. I mean, so you can look at things like, for instance, I was sort of hoping Sandy could be on here today, because I know that she's living in a place where they're spraying this poison in the air. And of course, Florida is well known for this, because when I was growing up as a kid there, there were trucks that came around and fogged everything. And we used to run around behind them, sucking it in like it was, because we were idiots. I guess maybe that's what's wrong with my brain. But, she's living there where they're aerial spraying these poisons. And how difficult is it to stay in a place of peace when you can see them dropping poison on your head. I mean, you're right. It's very difficult in these days and times. And how much action do you take against that? And one of the things that I think this verse speaks to is, are you playing your part in the world? Are you helping people, or are you just there for yourself? And I think that when you look at a situation like this aerial spraying, what is more in sync with the Tao? Would it be just to sit there and pretend it isn't happening and everything's okay in your own little world? Or is it to actually step into that place of saying, no, we're not going to allow this, looking at the bigger picture, how this spray is affecting the bees and all kinds of things down there, not to mention the people, but I mean, it's killing the bees, and we all know that's a huge issue. So when we start playing our part in the world, like this verse speaks to, I think that activism even can be peaceful, but be part of that, playing your part in the world. So I'd like to hear your guys' thoughts on that.
Well, I'd like to just jump out and say, yeah, anytime you can find a moment to, step into your power, realize that you have that power to, take action and be a voice for reason or for right. That is, I think, really where that's really where I think we find our source and our power right there. But it's so easy to act out of emotion, so easy to not do anything until your emotions filled up so much that then you, I guess, kind of lose your way or forget the way of the Tao, or forget the peaceful means, and let our emotions run high. And that's usually not a good thing, because things get misconstrued, and then that muddies the waters, and things don't really get they don't get handled with just an exchange of energy that isn't useful. But yeah, anytime we feel we can actually step in and play a part, you can almost feel it. You can almost feel your power swell up inside you, and you don't take that as angst or anger, or if you recognize it and are able to be in it and of it, and also project it in a positive way, then that's good. But I think it's so hard sometimes. We just react, and so our activism becomes something else that isn't helpful. So maybe I'm not necessarily looking at the positive side of it. I'm right there, but I am trying to just understand things better, understand how that actually works. When we can step into our power and be a part of the world and have an influence on things. But from the individual standpoint, you feel so helpless and so powerless. But I do like what you're saying, how when the world seems to be in chaos, if we can find peace within ourselves and work from that, then I guess that's a good starting point.
I forget where I heard it, but somewhere I heard, like, when there's a big natural disaster, or I didn't realize it because I don't keep up on the news, but I guess there was some sort of a mass shooting in Washington State. I don't know all the details of it, but when things like that happen, somewhere I heard, look for the helpers. And anytime there's a flood or I know. Good morning. My friend has this beautiful cat here that just loves me. You want to be on TV? It's like a Himalayan cat, really gorgeous. So, when these natural disasters, the floods, the hurricanes, the shootings, different things like that happen, that's when uh, it's almost like the same concept as having sacred space, sacred silence. Sometimes when you're on a call, I know most people here like do business calls and stuff, the question and then the line just goes silent and nobody answers. There's something called sacred silence there, where if you will just stay with that silence, it actually brings up in someone, they will actually speak. If you just leave the silence there, it will encourage someone to bring up something that they haven't brought up before. And I think that's what happens in these disasters, is that horrific happening brings out the compassion in people. It brings out the helpers, and it helps them fulfill their purpose in a way. So, every one of these things, of course, we can look at in so many ways. But you brought up something there for a minute, Jason, about feelings and emotions. And what I find extremely interesting is that because we're all different, but we all experience these things, many of us be interpreting the same sensations as different things. Like some people feel that butterfly thing in their stomach, and to them that's fear, and to others that's excitement, and to others that's um, whatever it is. Like we can all interpret things differently, and we can even interpret them differently for ourselves if we don't like the way we're interpreting them. So it's all a matter of choice, how we look at these things and respond to them. But I'd love to hear more thoughts.
Yeah, I was actually thinking about that last week. How we can reframe our feelings, and that one feeling that you may interpret as anxiety or fear could also be interpreted as excitement. you know and of course, anxiety, is that's not really a negative. That's kind of a negative thing, and fear is a negative thing. But we choose to say, wait, no, I'm excited. It's not a bad thing, because what happens when you think of it as fear and anxiety, then you're like, whoa, something's wrong. Your body sort of locks up.
Exactly.
Your brain is thinking that. But if you can reframe it, because when you're thinking of it as fear and anxiety, it's like, well, watch out, what's going to happen at the thing. But if you're just like, oh, well, I'm excited about this new thing, it somehow allows you to focus a little bit more on what exactly it is you're doing, and less on what might come around the corner to mess things up. So, but yeah, I was thinking about that, how they're so similar, and how we can actually, either through habit or through our experiences, we can start associating the feeling with something negative, when it really has no negative or positive. It's just a feeling that's stirring up inside us, and we can kind of choose to label it whatever we want. It's just unfortunate that a lot of times we're not taught to even recognize what it is. Um, can you describe the feel? If I would imagine, if you describe the feeling of anxiety and the fear of the feeling of excitement, you're probably going to describe them pretty similar. The only difference is you're going to have either a positive or a negative, connotation on it.
Exactly. That is exactly what I mean. If we were to actually describe the physical symptoms of anxiousness or nervousness in our stomach and excitement. Physically, the feeling is pretty much the same, I think. It's just the way that we interpret it, in which, are we looking at the world as a glass half empty or a glass half full? And I think that determines whether we call that excitement or anxiety a lot of the time. Of course, anxiety, I don't mean to downplay anxiety, everybody, because I know how completely overwhelming and debilitating anxiety can be for people. So please don't feel like I'm just poo-pooing, experiencing it all. But I know even with my pain, like what I've been trying to do is really pinpoint the different sensations and then find another time in my life when I experienced a sensation very similar, but it was good. It was a good sensation. And then trying to kind of flip that in my mind as to how I'm experiencing the pain when I could be experiencing it as pleasure, if that makes any sense. I know it's kind of weird and whacked, but you do weird and whacked things when you're in pain. So, yeah. Chris, Karen, what are your thoughts on this chapter or what we've been talking about so far?
I've had some single word words come to my mind. I mean, my mind has been just going as each of you've been talking. I think first I want to kind of get off my chest. It's frustrating to me to not be able to see everything I want to see at once, and I can't see the verse, and I can't see you, and then I get a little panicked and I think, where am I? But I know at the end it says something about honor. Does anybody have that close by that they can just read that? If you honor.
Truly, too much honor means no honor. It is not wise to shine like jade and resound like stone chimes.
I love that.
Thank you. Yeah, that's pretty cool. It's interesting to me that by studying this, I think Jason was voicing a little frustration that, if people aren't living this, then it's a little bit difficult to feel much advantage of it. And I was thinking the advantage to me of studying this is opening me up and recognizing some things that I maybe otherwise wouldn't recognize. Of course, I have to admit, I have this real sarcastic bent. I'm sure you've picked up on that. And it's always easier for me to learn looking at somebody else first. And I was starting a post this morning, and this happens a lot. I think I know what I'm going to say, and then I'm 4 or 5 paragraphs in. I haven't used any of those words or ideas at all. I've just kind of done my own thing. And this morning, I realized that I was thinking about being derided for my idea. And what came to mind, we have a 14-year-old in the house, and he ends up staying after school at least 3 days of the week, if not 5 days of the week, for poor judgment. And he waltzes into the living room and he says, "You don't believe that, do you?" And I thought, of all people to deride me for what I might believe is a 14-year-old who can't even get home from school. Talking about honor. I mean, don't we all have this idea about our thoughts and our responses and our reactions to things? And we give ourselves honor, and we challenge other people. You don't really believe that, do you? And it reminded me of how much I see myself as a blurter. In other words, I have memories of myself embarrassing myself because, as Jason was talking earlier about all the emotions that we can get caught up in, I I would blurt out whatever it was that I was thinking or whatever I was feeling, and then I would go, oh, and be sorry for that. I mean, be sorry for years. Be sorry. I'm still sorry for for a fourth grade blurt. So, and I was thinking too, you know, whenever we talked about anxiety, and I forget what the question was, and I remember sharing that having an anxiety attack on the I-10, driving a couple of older folks away from the Phoenix Veterans Hospital, which is probably the best thing for them until I lost consciousness on the road. But you know, I really did believe that I had. I mean, I had struggled for years to try and figure out, you know, why I would have an anxiety attack, and what had preceded it. And as I was talking it through with you, I was saying, well, it was probably, you know, spending 8 hours that day at the VA hospital with a 6'4", 6'6", 92-year-old man who had to lean against the wall because they didn't have enough chairs, and just the grossness, you know, a pileup of grossness. I think that that's a good reason to have an anxiety attack, you know, for your body to just go. And that's pretty much what my body does. And so I really learned from that. I gained from that. And it's always a good thing, I think, whenever I can look at when I think too much of myself, which is having too much honor for myself. If I can look at that and say, need to look at the flip side. What, you know, how foolish is that? You know, do I want to shine like jade, or do I want to recognize where I'm at with this? I'll let somebody else talk. Thank you.
Thank you, Karen.
That was good.
I think, thank you, Kai, for joining us. I know Kai from some business things that we work together on, so glad you could join us this morning. You probably, looks like you're out walking or something, so you probably can't read the verse, but just feel free to chime in and tell us your thoughts if you coming up during our discussion, Kai. Chris, what do you think about all this?
What do I think about all of it? It's interesting. You were making some good points, Jason, about being involved or being an activist type of thing. He seems very aloof. It's very philosophical. He's talking about wholeness and nature and the world. You know, he's talking about the Tao. He's talking about things in a universal way. Like, he's not really an activist, Lao Tzu. he's more of a monk type.
Something occurred to me while Karen was speaking in regards to the anxiety, right, along with this verse as well, and in regards to the part of the verse where it talks about humility, and you know, when we're in a situation, I have a lot of respect for nurses and anyone that puts them in emergency care, and you know, people that have to deal with all of that. You know, like I mean, consider it grossness, but it's very needed, and you know, you can feel overwhelmed and in situations where you're having to deal with that all the time. And I can see coming away from that after the end of the day and having, you know, anxiety over it, you know, and I could, but I also, when you were talking about that, I'm thinking, you know, part of the Tao, from what I understand, is having the humility of understanding that we don't have to shoulder all of that, and to think that we are the ones that have to shoulder it is to not be is to not have that humility. And so by having that humility, we're also able to let go of the things that we are maybe shouldering that are giving us anxiety. Does that make sense at all? I don't know, it just occurred to me that might be, it might be something that, maybe, I've missed in the past, as far as, sometimes I come away from a situation, where, maybe I blurted out something, where there was an event that happened or an issue that came up, and it just seemed very, maybe tense, or, whatever you want to call it. But when I come away from it, I still am carrying that energy and carrying that burden, if you might. So, but is that me saying, well, I'm the one that's, should be carrying it, and I'm, is it, or should I be like, well, hey, that's part of just life's existence, and these things are, come and go, and it's not really, I shouldn't carry this around with me. I mean, that's not what I'm really here to do. I'm not this, big overseer of everything, and having to make everything perfect all the time, even though I would like to help and make things perfect for people. Like, to carry that burden around is to, not have humility, but to think I'm something greater than, why shouldn't other people be having this same burden? So it's kind of like putting myself above what my expectations for other people are. And at the same time being really difficult on myself. And I'm missing the whole humility part about it. So I think certain parts about how our mindset should be, can be hidden within all this other stuff that's, distracting us, whether it be emotions or outside interference. But the little bow on it, I mean, just maybe the humility part of it goes a little bit deeper into allowing us to let go of things, and realize, hey, I'm just another person doing the best I can. I don't really need to have all this and keep all this with me all the time. Does that make sense?
Absolutely. That brings us back to something we've discussed on previous Zooms, which is there's three businesses: my business, your business, and God's business. And if we can stick to our own business, we'll relieve a lot of that anxiety and that weight on our shoulders, and let other people handle their business, let God handle what's left, because, or pretty much all of it. But you know what I mean? There's really only certain things that we have control over. And I guess that serenity prayer, we've all heard it a million times, but there's so much truth in that, to just, if we can't change something, don't torture yourself mentally over it. And Karen, you've got to forgive yourself for your blurts in 4th grade. You got to quit carrying that around, honey. And I want to bring up something that I don't think I've discussed a whole lot. I think I've touched it a few times through the years, but if you haven't studied personality colors, that can actually bring quite a bit of understanding to you, to understand which personality color you are, and it kind of explains why you have tendencies to go certain ways. And I found it very helpful to understand myself and other people, especially because when I first learned it, I thought I was one color, and then as I studied it more, I found out I was another color, and I had been beating myself up over the characteristics of my true color. Those are things that I saw as faults within myself, and I had been beating myself up over. And then when I learned, oh, that's just my color, and that's why I'm like that, and I was like, okay, that makes sense now. And then I quit. Like, there was just a whole lot of browbeating that I was able to let go of then. So learning how to decide what is worth getting anxiety over. Not, being a nurse for so long, obviously we do deal with some really emotionally charged situations, and we have to learn how to process those feelings. Well, not everybody learns how to process them. I mean, some people just stuff them, and those are the nurses and doctors that show up at your bedside that don't seem to care because they've actually gone home and cried one night too many and decided to detach to kind of save themselves emotionally, but they show up as very cold at the bedside. And of course, we all know they don't need to be there at that point, but it's really a survival mechanism for them because they deal with so many heartbreaking things. If you don't learn how to process those emotions and help other people process those emotions, I mean, they can just get completely overwhelming. But then again, our minds are our worst enemy, because our minds can just get in this spiral of, just ruminating like a cow chewing its cud over and over and over. And really, most of the time that just doesn't serve. I mean, sometimes you could say, well, why do I keep thinking about that? What's the message in it for me? And sometimes you can come up with it, but other times it's just your mind on crack or something. I mean, not literally, but it just keeps going over and over things. So Kai's driving now.
Hey, hey Kai. uh, yeah. Well, yeah. To be able to process those emotions, and be able to just and be able to let go of and be okay with with the letting going of it. Can't talk right now, but I mean, I don't think that's something that's ever taught. It's something that you experience, and then you're either able to do it or you don't, and probably you either flourish in your position or you wash out and you do something else. But because of that, I would imagine that's a huge thing, to have to overcome when you're having to deal with so many heartbreaking things throughout the day. So, it does seem like a lot of life is just how you're going to handle and process what's going on around you. It seems to me like if you're following the Tao, then a lot of times when things happen, what your actions might be is to just sit there and be silent and allow things to flow without your interference. And so it's sort of a passive way of handling things. I don't know that I would not have that ability to just kind of stay quiet and not interact or intervene, and just think that, well, this is just the way of the universe. And because there's always that time, well, when do I need to interact? When do I need to, I'm here witnessing this thing. Does that mean I'm supposed to be doing something about it? Or am I supposed to be already wise enough to understand this is going to play out a certain way, and I just have to be, there for the end, or there to guide it or something? It's all very, there's a lot of big questions in regards to that. So.
Yeah, a smart person knows what to say. A wise person knows when to say it, right?
Yeah, that's so.
Kai, do you want us to read the verse over again so that you know what we're talking about? Might be helpful for Kai if we could read the verse one more time. Do you have it there, Jason?
Yeah, I'd be happy to read it.
Thank you.
The 39th verse, and it starts off, these things from ancient times arise from one. The sky is whole and clear. The earth is whole and firm. The spirit is whole and full. The 10,000 things are whole, and the country is upright. All these are in the virtue of wholeness. When man interferes with the Tao, the sky becomes filthy, the earth becomes depleted, the equilibrium crumbles, creatures become extinct. Therefore, nobility is rooted in humility. Loftiness is based on lowliness. This is why noble people refer to themselves as alone, lacking, and unworthy. The pieces of a chariot are useless unless they work in accordance with the whole. A man's life brings nothing unless he lives in accordance with the whole universe. Playing one's part in accordance with the universe is true humility. Truly too much honor means no honor. It is not wise to shine like jade and resound like stone chimes. That's it.
That last part is so cool. And, it's, to me, when I hear that, I kind of see, sometimes you see people, especially because, most of us here, or pretty much everybody here, is a small business owner, entrepreneur themselves. So I think in our businesses, especially the networking type businesses, we see people that rise to the top, so to speak, and they're up there shining like jade, but they're hollow, or they um they just get too much of themselves. They forget where they come from. I tell myself every day, don't forget where you came from. Don't forget to reach down and help people that are struggling, because you see leaders in these companies just kind of walk away from their teams. It's like they get to a certain point where they don't reach out anymore. I know they get busy, but there's always time to help somebody and remember what it was like when they started. And Kai, do you have any thoughts on this? I'd love to hear them if you have any. He must not. That's okay.
Frozen.
Yeah, he might be frozen. I know he was walking, and now he's in his vehicle. He might have gotten to a place where he doesn't have signal good or something. Karen, come on out, hon.
Thank you. I've been a little fixated on something that Jason said. Possibly he doesn't even necessarily remember because it wasn't the focal point, but it really turned my wheels. He was saying, we're not taught that. And I was thinking, there's a lot of things in life that we're not taught. And I'm not even sure who's responsible, if anyone's really responsible, for teaching us certain things. I've only recently understood why there's so much emphasis on the first 8 years of our lives and the programming that we take on and why that is. And I always intend to get a little bit more clear on this, and then I get off doing other things. But I think, and I may have the wrong term, I may have the wrong stage, but I think that what I understand is that children are in theta until they're about 8 years old, which supposedly is the hypnosis stage. And so basically, they're little recording machines, and they're picking up from everyone around them. And we all want to say that, our parents should have taught us this, and our teachers should have taught us that. And I don't know that any of us to this day are really clear on how much children pick up from us. In other words, you're in a grocery line, and the person in front of you or the person behind you has a child that's 4 years old. And you go ahead and, you're talking to your friend, and you're in your casual mode, or you're in your cynical mode and you're cursing up a storm, or whatever it might be, are you taking any responsibility for the player in that child? Are you saying, I'm teaching this child, it's my moment, this is the only time this child will ever run across me, and so, it's it's kind of like that ad that Hillary Clinton, I approve this ad, and then you see Donald Clinton, Donald Trump, when he's using the F word, and I just think that it's important for us to realize, and I don't believe everyone does, that we are learners our entire lives, and we should be active learners. I mean, all of us, obviously, I'm preaching to the choir here, but um, I know in our homes and as we walk down the streets and we get together waiting for kids at the bus stop or whatever it might be, how many adults recognize that they're in learner mode, that they should be teaching themselves, that they should be picking up on the experience of life, gleaning something that they now know because they taught themselves, and things are different because they know different. I really think that's what Lao Tzu did his whole life. I guess I don't know. Of course, I don't know what he did his whole life, but it seems like he kind of took on himself his whole life to pick up from everything around him and then turn that outward and share it as, something that he could proclaim, something that he could teach others. So I guess that's something I got stuck on there from Jason. Thanks.
Thank you, Karen. And yeah, I picked up on that too. I'm
Yeah.
glad you brought it back out, because you're right. We're not taught. I mean, think about it. When you were a kid, I know when I was a kid, I'm sure everybody else here too. If you were upset over something or crying, it was like, shut up, or I'm going to give you something to cry about. Sort of like we were taught how to just stuff our emotions. We weren't ever taught how to interpret what we were feeling, change how we were feeling. I mean, these are all sort of, I don't want to say new thought processes, because obviously they were around when Lao Tzu was here, right? But for the majority of the world, these are fairly new concepts about changing your thoughts and really staying in control of your life by controlling your mind.
Yeah, those are some great points you brought up, Karen. I actually believe that the way that we are educated as children really maps out how we grow into our adulthood too. I think we are probably as human beings, we're probably already sort of programmed to learn all of our lives. I mean, we need to do that in order just to survive, I believe, and survival of the species. But I also think that at least in the United States, our education system sets us up to be students all of our lives, and for most of us, we develop these habits. I know I have developed the habit of just wanting to learn and learn and learn and learn, and not and practically hardly ever put much of that knowledge into actual use, but just to know it. And I think that's because, I mean, I spent 20 years in school, learning and waiting to be told what to learn, and being told what's important, okay, you need to know this so you can pass this test, and then you can, I mean, kind of being told what to do. And once you graduate from either high school or you go on to university and graduate, I kind of get the sense that a lot of us are kind of then kind of lost because we don't have anyone telling us where to go and what to do at that point. You know, we have to sort of take control of the reins ourselves. And you know, even, I mean, my high school counseling, you know, for you know, career counseling, and my, you know, college career counseling, I mean, it was all pretty much a joke. They didn't go into any detail or any, you know, I mean, I don't think I even had any counseling in high school about it. You know, which would have been great because a lot of stuff happened for me at the end of my high school career. I definitely needed people to talk to, and that's when, you know, there wasn't people around. So it was like, well, I just got to keep learning. I just got to go to class and continue my education, and eventually it'll click, and I'll find my purpose or my way. But you know, it's easy to get stuck into this just studying and just being a student of life, because it's become such a habit, and because it becomes sort of a, you know, your safe area, a safe way of living, and you feel like, well, as long as I'm as long as I am increasing my knowledge about things, I'm at least getting somewhere in life. Even though I might be, you know, working the same job I have for the last, you know, 8 years and not really, you know, getting much out of the new knowledge. So, I mean, I think I'll let somebody else talk, but I do think that education, the way that it is in the United States, definitely puts us in this pattern, and creates these habits, which are kind of hard to break in our adulthood, unless we really go out there and search for the ways to recognize it and get past it. You know, at least now we have the ability to get the information we need online, and find a way to push past any obstacles and you know, any habits that are holding us back. So I'm really excited for these next generations that to come, because they have everything at their fingertips. They don't, you know, they don't really have to wait, and they can look up the things that they need to look up, and I'm just really excited about that. So, but anyway, I'll let someone else talk. Sorry.
Actually, we only have maybe about 6 minutes left. So if people would like to come out and get their final thoughts on this, that would be great.
Yeah, about living a pattern. Yeah, we do live in a lot of patterns, and I can relate to what Jason's saying about being creative and thinking. I think we do need to think creative, and kind of have to find your own original way. That's part of a creative life. So that's really important.
I like that. It's good, Chris.
Yeah. Thank you. Thank you. And I don't know. Our other visitor today seemed to be muted there.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think he's frozen. He was driving, probably lost connection.
Yeah.
Yeah. Good. Well,
Mm-hmm.
hope you all have a terrific week.
Yeah, you too, man. This weekend's going to be good for me. This last week was pretty crazy, but this next week and this weekend is going to be really nice. So I'm just glad I was able to get back on here and speak with you guys, because I think this is one of the times where I stepped out of my habit of kind of, you know, when I joined this mastermind and actually came out and started talking, was, you know, breaking free of my habit of kind of being in the background and not really participating in this sort of stuff, and just kind of stay in the background and listening and learning, and, you know, and that was okay. But man, I've really, I mean, it sort of just opened up my views, opened up my feelings about stepping into, you know, these types of situations and stepping into my power to be part of this and maybe have an impact on someone's life. And because I know I'm getting such a good impact out of discussing this with you guys. So,
You do.
yeah.
Yeah, it helps. It's a creative integration. Helps you grow. It's a good thing. We appreciate being here.
Yeah. So this is one of those things where you can interact, but then you're not interfering with the Tao, right? You can be part of something and actually have an effect, but then not be interfering with the universe's natural order. You know?
Mm-hmm. I give some thanks to Wayne Dyer and leading us in this way with this book. So I think we're on a path here. Yeah.
You know, he had the courage to not only study the stuff, but then also put his thoughts out there. You know, for such a long time too. I haven't read very many of his books, but he put himself out there. There was some cynicism about him, but he just kept doing what he was doing because he believed in what he was doing and why he was doing it. And I think we can all find that, that within ourselves if we continue to look for it. You know, we never know who we might impact and have a good, have a good impact on. So I know I need to hear from different people throughout the day and throughout my life, and so I can have a better understanding and really find this, find a center for me. So this really helps, and I appreciate you all. Have a wonderful weekend. It's great being on, and great hearing you.
Thank you, guys. Karen, you have some final message?
Well, again, something that Jason said has caused me to think a little bit differently. He said we can do this and not interfere with the Tao. And I was thinking how often in my life, in particular, when I'm trying to learn something new and I don't understand, mainly when I don't understand things, I think sometimes we are fearful of stopping the train, putting our hands up, being the only one in the class who doesn't get something, who doesn't really get the meaning of a particular word, or we know we've been studying the Tao Te Ching, but who knows what that is? Can somebody describe for me what that is? And we think, oh, I think I'll just hang in the background and maybe somebody will tell me what it is without me asking the question. Whereas when we come to something like this, it's like we go underground and we huddle up and we pour through things together and spur each other on, and then we get a better understanding, but we haven't jammed up the class. And I just appreciate, when you're as old as I am, it's really nice to still be able to go somewhere and say, hey, I don't get this. Help me understand. And then go away with an understanding. And that's kind of how I feel. And I'm glad you got through the cleaning, Chris. Nice to see you, Kai. It's I don't know who you are, but it's nice to have you on board. Hope you'll come back. And Catherine, you always do a great job. Thank you.
Yes, thank you very much, Catherine.
Thank you. Thank you so much. And I just want to remind everybody that it just comes from Katie Byron, or Byron Katie, is that, it's never what's happening. It's very, very rarely, I'm not going to say never because that's not a good word to use, but it's very, very, very rarely what's happening that is causing you stress or anxiety. It is what you're thinking about that situation that is causing the stress and anxiety. And anytime that we're in resistance to things, even expressing emotions, like I said, when I was little, it was, shut up or I'm going to give you something more. So I learned how to suppress emotions. And it just as it's a funny example. Day before yesterday, or it might have been yesterday, I can't remember. I actually cussed my son. Like, I cussed him out. And he was cracking up laughing at me. He said, Mom, I'm like 31 years old. You've never cussed me out. I'm so proud of you for doing that, because I absolutely deserved every word of it. It was one of those situations. But before I said those things to him, I was like, I was in such resistance, because I was like, I wanted to say something to him. But at the same time, I was like, no, you need to be, the understanding mom who's always politically correct or whatever. And then just like this part of me was just like, F that. He needs to hear this, and I was just like, ah. And it was hilarious. But I felt so much better afterwards, you guys. Like, it was the resistance of me not wanting to tell him how I felt, how I truly felt. And if I hadn't have done it at that particular time, that's more things that would have been building up inside of me, until I get to that straw on the camel's back, because that's kind of what I do. If I don't express something, then it just stays there and kind of festers a little bit, and maybe even my mind would have gone over, oh, I should have said something to him, but I just said it in the moment. As soon as the words were out, I was in a complete state of panic, you guys. Like, I was like, oh my God, what if he, thinks I don't love him? Or what if, he doesn't talk to me now? Blah, 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 blah. Your mind goes crazy, all these things. And when he came back with LMAO, I was just like so relieved. And I felt so good that I had actually said what I felt to him, so he understood how frustrated I was in the situation. It was still my thoughts that were making me frustrated in that situation. He kind of put me on a spot in a way, but it was still up to me how I reacted to that. And I reacted with stress and frustration, because I felt like he was really pushing me to do something that I didn't want to do. And so when things come up that are really rubbing you, really your brain keeps replaying it over and over or whatever, if we can just find the resistance, where are we being resistant in that moment? Is it because we have a truth that we need to reveal to someone, and we live in fear of saying that truth? That's often the case, because we don't want to hurt somebody's feelings, or we don't want to make them feel like we don't love them. But at the same time, we have to stand in our truth. We have to express ourselves too, or we wind up, like Jason said, we just carry more and more weight on our shoulders, and we just get heavier and heavier and heavier. So I just love you guys. I love Saturday mornings. I love that we've been doing this, and we'll continue to do it. Samantha and Sandy and Christina and Dan and Donna, we miss you guys.
Thanks, y'all. Have a great day.
Yeah, thank you, Chris, for being here. And Kai, thank you for joining us. And we hope that you'll come back. We do this every Saturday morning. Right now, we're working through this book, but we've worked through many books before this, and we'll work through many more after this. And we'd love to have you here and express your thoughts as well. A free conversation here. And if you want to join us, I mean, obviously, if you're watching this as a recording, you found us, but you can always go to zoom.saturdaymorningmastermind.com on here and everything, and the numbers to call in if you don't have internet. And we also have our Mindset Mastery Collective over on Google. It's a Google community. We'd love to have you there. We SaturdayMorningMastermind.com, and all of our blog, we do a blog about each one of these verses, and so that's all there. Come in and say anything before we...
Kai made it. Hey, Guy, unmute yourself.
Let me get you unmuted. I'll help you out here. Let me find the mute button. Whoops. Whoops. Oh, okay, there we go. Now you're unmuted. I think both muting and muting at the same time.
Now it's not. Now I can't hear you.
I can hear you. I can hear you. Come on out.
Good.
Um,
He's shopping.
well, I just got the last part of it, so I like it. And, I'll check out your page and participate again.
All right, awesome. I'll get you those links, Guy. We appreciate you being here. Thank you, Jason and Karen and Chris. And we'll be here next week.
Yeah, thanks, Karen. Thanks, Chris.
Time, same place, same bat channel. Have a great week, guys.
Bye.